Avery Lindstrom sat at her desk in her small Portland apartment, staring at her laptop screen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She was trying to finish a mock-up of a logo for a client, but her mind kept returning to Calvin. 2 days ago, she'd learned that he'd been lying to her for months, not just about small things like where he'd been that night, but big ones like his finances and even his relationships with other women. Avery felt betrayed and humiliated. Her phone vibrated, and a text from her friend Celeste popped up on the screen. "Hey, how are you? Want to meet up today?" Celeste wrote. Avery sighed and typed out a reply. "I don't know, Cel. I'm still in shock. Maybe tomorrow." "Okay, but don't get too bogged down in work. Call me if you want to chat," Celeste replied almost immediately. Avery put her phone down and looked at the picture on her desk, her and Calvin on the beach last summer. She grabbed the frame and threw it in the desk drawer, slamming it shut. Enough. She wasn't going to spend another day mourning the man who had lied to her so easily. She got up to make coffee and turned on the radio. The music distracted her for a while, but thoughts of Calvin still crept into her head. How could she not have noticed that he was lying? He had seemed so sincere when he talked about his plans to start a business or how he wanted to travel with her. It was all a lie. Avery poured coffee into a mug and returned to the table, deciding that work would be the best distraction. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Avery was surprised she wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, she saw Celeste with a bag from her favorite coffee shop and a box of donuts. "Cel, what are you doing here?" Avery asked, stepping back to let her friend in. "I told you I wouldn't let you sit there alone and be sad," Celeste said, setting the bag down on the kitchen table. "Here, a caramel latte and a raspberry donut. Eat them before they get cold." "You didn't have to do that," Avery said, but she smiled anyway as she took the coffee. "Thank you." "You're welcome. So, tell me, what's going on?" "You've barely responded for 2 days." Celeste sat down on the sofa, tucking her legs under her. Avery sat down across from me, holding a warm mug in her hands. I don't know how to handle this. Calvin lied to me about everything. He said he had savings, that he was working on some startup. But in reality, he borrowed money from friends and never even thought about paying it back. I feel like such a fool." "You're not stupid," Celeste said firmly. "He's a manipulator. People like him are good at persuasion. It's not your fault." "Maybe so, but I'm mad at myself," Avery admitted. "I should have noticed. There were signs. He always changed the subject when I asked about his job, or made up some weird excuse for not showing me his office." "Stop blaming yourself," Celeste interrupted. "He lied to you, period. Now the main thing is, what are you going to do next?" Avery shrugged. "I don't know. Work. Try to forget." "It's not a plan, it's survival," Celeste said, taking a bite of her donut. "You need something to bring you back to life. Maybe take a class, or go somewhere." "Courses?" Avery raised her eyebrows. I have a ton of freelance orders. I barely make deadlines." "So what? You like learning new things. Remember how you wanted to try pottery or yoga?" Celeste leaned forward. "Look, I saw an ad for a yoga studio 2 blocks from here. They give a free trial. Let's go together." "Yoga? Seriously?" Avery rolled her eyes. "I'm not one to sit in the lotus position and meditate." "Who said you have to meditate? Just try it. If you don't like it, I won't bother you anymore." Celeste raised her hands in mock surrender. Avery sipped her coffee, considering the offer. Maybe Celeste was right. She really did need something to snap her out of this. "Okay, I'll think about it, but no promises." "That's progress," Celeste grinned. "And you should see us more often. Me, Lucas, Jasper, we all miss you. The last time you were at Jasper's party was a month ago." "I know," Avery sighed. "It's just, things were so tense with Calvin. He didn't like it when I went out without him, and now I'm just not in the mood." "Well, we'll fix that," Celeste said. "There's a get-together at Lucas's house this Friday. Nothing fancy, just pizza and board games. You're coming, non-negotiable." You're unbearable, Avery said, but the corners of her lips twitched into a smile. That's my super quality, Celeste winked. Seriously, Ave, you need to start living again. Calvin isn't worth you locking yourself in the house. Avery nodded, feeling her chest lighten a little. Celeste always had a way of pulling her out of her dark thoughts. They chatted for a while longer about Celeste's job as a manager at a local gallery and Lucas's recent awkward situation while trying to fix his bike. Once Celeste left, Avery felt a little better, though the pain of Calvin's betrayal was still there. The next day, Avery decided to take a look at the website of the yoga studio Celeste had mentioned. The schedule didn't look so daunting, and the trial class was indeed free. She signed up for Saturday, figuring it couldn't get any worse. Then she opened her email and responded to a request from a new client who wanted to design branding for his cafe. Work had always been her salvation, and now she clung to it like a life preserver. That evening, she called her mother, who lived in a Seattle suburb. Avery didn't want to go into details, but she knew how her mother would feel if she kept the truth from her. "Hi, Mom," Avery said when she picked up the phone. "Avery, how are you? You haven't called in a while." Mom's voice was warm, but with a hint of concern. "Yeah, sorry, just a lot of work." Avery tried to sound cheerful. "How are you? How's Dad?" "We're fine. Dad's still working on his garden. And you? There's something wrong with your voice." Avery hesitated. "Well, I broke up with Calvin." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry," Mom said. "What happened?" Avery gave the short version. Calvin's lies, how he pretended to be someone he wasn't, and how she learned the truth from his friend who accidentally let it slip. "I just don't understand how I could have been so blind," she finished. "You trusted him, that's not weakness," Mom said. "He took advantage of your trust. But you're strong, Avery. You can handle it." "I'm trying," Avery said. "Celeste's been pushing me to yoga, telling me I need something to do." "Celeste has a point," Mom chuckled. "Yoga may not be your thing, but it's worth a try. And don't forget about your friends. They're wonderful." "Yeah, I know," Avery smiled. "Okay, I'll run. My deadline is tomorrow." "Okay, but call more often, okay? And come when you have time," Mom said. "Definitely. I love you." "And I love you too, darling." After the conversation, Avery felt a little more confident. She opened her laptop and began working on sketches for the cafe. Working always helped her focus, and by midnight she had finished a rough draft of the logo. Satisfied, she went to bed, deciding that tomorrow would be a new day. On Friday, Avery finally went to Lucas's place. Lucas's apartment was cozy, with lots of books on the shelves and an old record player in the corner. When she walked in, Jasper and Celeste were already arguing over what kind of pizza to order. "Avery, you're just in time," Lucas called from the kitchen. "Pepperoni or Hawaiian?" "Pepperoni," Avery said, taking off her jacket. "Hawaiian is a crime." "Agreed," Jasper laughed. "Sell, surrender, you're outnumbered." "Pineapple on pizza is art," Celeste snorted, but held up her hands. "Okay, pepperoni." They ordered food and sat down to play a board game. Avery tried to join in the conversation, but sometimes she found herself thinking about Calvin. Lucas noticed her thoughtfulness. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked when they were alone while Celeste and Jasper argued about the rules of the game. "Yeah, just personal," Avery shrugged. "Broken up with Calvin." "Wow, seriously?" Lucas whistled. "Well, to be honest, I never liked him. He talked too much." "Yeah," Avery chuckled bitterly. "I wish I'd noticed it sooner." "It happens," Lucas said. "But you're cool, Ave. You'll find someone better, or just live your life the way you want." "That's what I'm planning," she replied. "No guys, just me, work, and maybe yoga." "Yoga?" Lucas raised his eyebrows. "Did Celeste put you up to it?" "Who else?" Avery laughed. The evening was fun, and Avery felt like she could relax for the first time in a week. Her friends reminded her that she wasn't alone, and that gave her strength. The next day, she went to a trial yoga class. The instructor was friendly and the class was small, so Avery didn't feel awkward. By the end of the class, she even thought about signing up for regular training. Back home, Avery sat down at her laptop to send the sketches to the client. She opened her calendar and added yoga for the following week, as well as a meeting with a new client. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a plan not just to survive, but to actually live. She decided to take a break from relationships and focus on herself. Freelance projects, yoga, and friends to gain confidence and independence. Avery walked into the office of Bright Vibe, a design studio in downtown Portland, coffee in hand. It was Monday morning, and she was trying to get into work mode after a weekend spent trying to take her mind off Calvin. The studio was small, an open space filled with desks of designers covered in sketches and clipboards. Brightly colored posters of logos hung on the wall, and soft music played from an old record player in the corner. She dropped her bag on her chair and turned on her laptop. Across from her sat Finn Cormack, a colleague she had worked with for a year, but hadn't been in close contact with. Finn was typing away as usual, his head bobbing slightly to the beat of the music. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and on his desk sat a mug with the words "Hiking Office" written on it. "Good morning," Avery said, sitting up and opening her mail. "Morning," Finn responded, not looking up from the screen. "How was the weekend?" "Fine," she replied, without going into details. "And yours?" "I went hiking on Mount Hood," he said, finally looking up at her. "The weather was great, but I almost got lost on the way back." "Seriously?" Avery smiled. "You're supposed to be a pro at hiking." "Well, that's what I thought," Finn grinned, "until I got the trails mixed up. Good thing I had a map app." Avery laughed, and some of the tension she'd felt this morning eased. Finn was always easygoing and unobtrusive, and his easy humor made the workday a little less tedious. She knew he'd recently gotten divorced. It was a topic of whispered conversation around the office, but he'd never brought it up, and Avery hadn't bothered to ask. By lunchtime, their boss, Mira, had gathered the team to discuss a new project, branding for a local vinyl record store. Avery and Finn were placed on the same team, as they both had experience with retro styling. "Avery, you can work on the color palette and fonts," Mira said, handing out assignments. "Finn, you take the layouts and the overall concept. We need a rough draft by the end of the week." "No problem," Finn nodded, making a note in his notebook. "Okay, I'll start with references," Avery added, already running through ideas in her mind. After the meeting, Finn approached her desk. "Want to discuss the project over lunch? I know a place nearby that makes great sandwiches." Avery hesitated. She usually ate in the office or got takeout, but getting out sounded good. "Okay, sure. Just not for long. I have a deadline on another project." "Agreed," Finn said, grabbing his jacket. "Come on, it's 2 minutes away." The cafe was small, with wooden tables and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. They ordered sandwiches and sat by the window. While they waited for their food, Finn pulled out his phone and showed Avery a photo from the hike, snow-capped peaks and himself in a bright orange jacket. "This looks cool," Avery said, flipping through the photos. "Do you go mountaineering often?" "When I can," he replied. "It helps me switch off." "What do you do to reboot?" "Well, I used to draw a lot for myself, not for work," Avery said, taking a sip of water. "But lately it's been more freelance, although I recently took a yoga class, so maybe that'll be my new hobby." "Yoga." Finn raised his eyebrows. "Didn't expect that. You look more like someone who would argue with an instructor than sit in the lotus position." "Hey, don't judge it by its cover," Avery laughed. "Although, to be honest, I'm not sure if this is mine yet, but it's worth a try." "That's true," Finn nodded. "I also thought that hiking wasn't my thing until a friend dragged me into the mountains. Now I can't stop." The waiter brought the sandwiches, and they got to work on the project. Avery suggested warm tones inspired by 70s record covers, and Finn pitched his idea for a logo that hinted at a vinyl track. They hit it off quickly, and Avery found herself enjoying working with Finn. He didn't interrupt and listened carefully to her ideas. "Listen, do you collect records yourself?" she asked when they had finished with the work-related questions. "Yeah," Finn said, taking a bite of his sandwich. "I've got a whole shelf at home, mostly rock and indie, but a few jazz ones too. Do you listen to vinyl?" "Not really," Avery admitted. "I have a record player, but I'm more of a digital playlist person. Or maybe I just haven't found my record yet." "Then you should go to Vinalhaven," Finn said. "That's the store we're branding. They have a ton of stuff, from classics to new releases. I can show you around if you want." "Maybe someday," Avery said, not wanting to promise too much. She was comfortable with Finn, but she still kept her distance after Calvin. They returned to the office and went to their desks. Avery spent the day working on the palette for the project, exchanging quick messages with Finn in the work chat. He sent her a couple of references record covers with a similar aesthetic, and she responded with an emoji and a few ideas of her own. By the end of the day, she felt like working with him was easy, almost like a game. That evening, Avery met Celeste at a bar near the studio. They ordered cocktails, and Celeste immediately began asking about yoga. "So, how did it go?" she asked, stirring her drink. "It's fine," Avery said. "Not as bad as I thought it would be. The instructor was great, and I didn't even fall over during some warrior pose." "Ha, proud of you," Celeste grinned. "What else is new? How's work?" "Business as usual," Avery said. "New project for the record store. I'm partnered with Finn, he's a nice guy. We had lunch today, talked about ideas." "Finn," Celeste perked up. "The tall one with the dark hair? He's cute." "Cel, don't start," Avery rolled her eyes. "We're just co-workers, and I don't want anything with anyone. You know that." I know," Celeste raised her hands. "But I'm just saying he seems cool. And he's recently divorced, right? Maybe you could." "No," Avery interrupted firmly. "No maybes. I just got out of a nightmare with Calvin. I need some time to myself. Work, yoga, friends, that's the plan." "Okay, I get it," Celeste said, but there was a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Just keep me posted if anything changes." "Nothing will change," Avery snapped, but she smiled. "Better tell me how your gallery is doing. Found a new genius artist." Celeste began enthusiastically talking about the exhibit she was preparing, and Avery relaxed as she listened. But deep down, she was thinking about Finn, his calm manner, the funny way he talked about his hike. She quickly pushed those thoughts aside. He was just a coworker, that was all. The next day at the office, Finn approached her desk with a mug of coffee in his hand. "I went to Vinalhaven yesterday," he said. "Found a record that fits our concept perfectly. Want to see a photo? Maybe it'll inspire you." "Sure, show me," Avery replied, pushing the laptop away. He opened his phone and showed the album cover with bright yellow and orange stripes. "Here, look. I think we could use that energy for a logo." "Cool," Avery nodded. "I like it. Let's try something in this style. I'll throw together a couple of fonts, and you'll show me your mock-ups." "Agreed," said Finn and returned to his desk. By the end of the week, they had a draft ready for the client. Avery was pleased with the result. Their ideas meshed well, and Mira praised them for their teamwork. After the meeting, Finn suggested celebrating at a cafe. "Just coffee, nothing serious," he clarified, noticing her hesitation. "We deserve it, don't we?" "Okay, you've convinced me," Avery replied, smiling. "But only if it has my caramel latte." "I think we'll find it," Finn laughed. At the cafe, they chatted about music, work, and weekend plans. Finn told her he was going to a local indie band concert and asked if she wanted to join. Avery declined, citing her freelance work, but thought maybe she'd agree another time. Finn didn't insist, and that's what Shay likes. He didn't push like Calvin. By the end of the week, Avery realized she enjoyed spending time with Finn. He was easy to talk to, didn't try to impress her, and their conversations about work would flow into discussions of music or hiking without feeling awkward. She still kept her distance, reminding herself that she didn't want anything more than friendship. But somewhere deep down, she felt comfortable with Finn in a way she hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. Avery sat in her apartment, scrolling through a playlist Finn had sent her last night. He'd called it Indie Vibes for Rainy Portland, and included an umbrella emoji. She smiled as she clicked on the first song, a melancholy but warm tune by a local band she'd never heard of. Finn was right. The music was perfect for the gray morning with a drizzle falling outside. She sent him a message. Cool playlist. Where do you find these bands? A minute later, the answer came. Ha, thanks. Just digging around local bars and Spotify. Got a couple tracks I'd like to hear live. Shows on Friday, are you coming? Avery hesitated. She had already turned down his offer last week, citing freelancing, but she had no good reason to do so today. Besides, the idea of going to the concert sounded tempting. She typed, "Okay, let's go. What time and where?" "Cool, Douglas fir at 8. I'll pick you up at 7:30, Finn replied. Avery put her phone down and went back to work. She was finishing up a mock-up for a client, but her thoughts kept wandering to Finn. They'd been talking more often over the past few weeks, not just in the office, but outside of work as well. After the success of the vinyl store project, they'd continued to share ideas, and their texts had expanded to include discussions of music, movies, and even favorite places in Portland. Finn was unobtrusive, and she liked that. He didn't try to fill every silence in conversation like Calvin did, and he always listened when she spoke. On Friday night, Avery put on jeans, a black t-shirt with an old rock band logo, and a leather jacket. She looked in the mirror, fixed her hair, and decided she looked cool enough for a concert. At exactly 7:30, the intercom rang. "It's me," Finn said when she answered. "I'll be right down," Avery replied, grabbing her bag. Finn was waiting for her in an old blue pickup. He was wearing dark jeans, a plaid shirt, and a cap pulled slightly to the side. He smiled as he opened the door for her. "You look like a real indie fan," he said, nodding at her t-shirt. "You look like you just came out of the woods," Avery replied, pointing at his shirt. "Is that an official hiking uniform?" "Hey, that's style," Finn laughed, starting the car. "Let's go. I don't want to miss the warm-up." The Douglas Fir was a small bar with dim lighting, wooden walls, and a stage in the corner. The crowd was already gathering, and Avery felt energized by the buzz of conversation and the smell of beer. She and Finn each grabbed a bottle of local IPA and made their way closer to the stage. The opening band was surprisingly good. Their music was a mix of folk and rock, with raspy vocals that were catchy. "Not bad, huh?" Finn called, leaning toward her to be heard over the music. "Very," Avery replied, shaking her head in time. "How did you find them?" "I saw a poster in a coffee shop," he said. "I decided to take a chance." When the main band took the stage, the crowd became animated. Avery and Finn danced, singing along to the refrains, even though she only knew a couple of the songs. Finn occasionally teased her about her attempts to keep up with the rhythm, and she nudged him in response. By the end of the show, Avery realized she hadn't thought about Calvin all night for the first time in a long time. After the concert, they walked outside, where the air was cool and smelled of rain. Avery pulled on her jacket, and Finn shoved his hands in his pockets. "Want something to eat?" he asked. "There's a taco truck nearby that's open until midnight." "Tacos at 10:30? Avery raised her eyebrows. "You're definitely from Portland." "Is that a compliment?" Finn grinned. "I won't tell you until I try your tacos," she replied, and they both laughed. The food truck was bright yellow, with a flashing sign. They ordered chicken tacos and sat at a plastic table under the awning. Avery took a bite and nodded. "Okay, you were right. This is amazing." "I told you," Finn said, wiping sauce off his chin. "This is my secret spot after shows." "And now it's mine," Avery replied, smiling. "Thanks for inviting me. I haven't had this much fun in a long time." "I'm glad you came," Finn said, looking at her. "You seem so lively today. Not that you're usually gloomy, but You know, like you're glowing. Avery felt her cheeks flush slightly and took a quick sip of water. Well, music and tacos work wonders, she said, trying to laugh it off. They chatted a bit more about the band, the singer almost dropping the microphone, and their plans for the weekend. Finn mentioned he was going to the park for a picnic with some friends and asked if she wanted to join him. A picnic? Avery asked. What's that? Sandwiches and a blanket on the grass. Yeah, and a frisbee, if anyone's willing to bring one, Finn said. Nothing serious, just a hangout. A couple of guys from the office, plus my friends. Celeste can come too, if you want. Sounds good, Avery said. I'll think about it. Here are the details, okay? Of course, Finn nodded. He drove her home, and Avery felt a little warmth from the evening as they said goodbye. She didn't want to admit it, but Finn was easy, no expectations, no pressure. The next day, she called Celeste to tell her about the concert. They met at a coffee shop, where Celeste, as usual, ordered something with a lot of syrup. So, tell me, how was your rock and roll evening? Celeste said, stirring her coffee. It was indie, not rock, Avery corrected, rolling her eyes. It was cool. The band is cool. Finn knows where to find good music. Finn then, Celeste narrowed her eyes. You're inseparable. Dinners, concerts. What's next? Romantic walks. Stop, Avery said, but she couldn't help but smile. We're just friends. He's newly divorced, and I'm just over Calvin. We both just need to, well, get our minds off each other. Friendship, of course, Celeste said sarcastically, but I see you smiling when you talk about him. You like him. He's okay, Avery said, trying to sound nonchalant. He's fun, he's not a pain in the ass, but that doesn't mean I'm in love or anything. Okay, Celeste raised her hands. But if he invites you somewhere else, don't refuse. You said it yourself, you need to live. He actually invited me to a picnic tomorrow, Avery admitted. He said you could come too. Oh, I'm in, Celeste perked up. Where and when? Laurelhurst Park, 2 o'clock, Avery replied. He'll send the details. Great, I'll bring my famous lemonade, Celeste said. And don't forget to smile at You're Just a Friend. Avery rolled her eyes, but privately thought that the picnic was a good way to continue interacting with Finn without any extra pressure. On Sunday, Avery and Celeste arrived at the park. Finn was already there, spreading out a blanket under a large oak tree. There was a basket of snacks and a portable speaker playing soft music softly. There were a few people with him, a couple of co-workers from the office and 2 friends of his whom Avery didn't know. Hey, you guys came, Finn said, standing up. This is Avery and Celeste. Guys, this is Matt and Leela, old friends of mine. Hey, Avery said, setting the bag of chips she'd brought down on the blanket. Oh, Chips, my hero, Matt said, opening the pack. Finn, you said she was a designer, right? Will you show me your work? Maybe later, Avery laughed, sitting down on the blanket. I'm not here for the portfolio. They spent the day chatting, eating sandwiches, and playing frisbee. Finn was surprisingly good at it, catching the disc with ease and even teasing Avery when she missed. Come on, Lindstrom, you can do better, he shouted, throwing the disc to her. It's all the wind, she answered, laughing, and ran after the disc. By the end of the day, Avery was feeling relaxed. Finn was in his element, telling stories about his hiking adventures and teasing Matt about spilling the lemonade. Celeste whispered that Finn was definitely into her, but Avery brushed it off. She loved how easily he fit into her life, but she told herself it was just friendship. They'd both been through tough breakups, and this was what they needed: support, laughter, nothing complicated. Before leaving, Finn approached her. Hey, I made a new playlist. Want me to send it to you? Sure, Avery replied, but only if it's not a country. I promise, he laughed. See you at the office? Yeah, see you tomorrow, she said, waving goodbye. At home, Avery put on his new playlist and lay down on the couch. She thought about Finn, his easy smile, and the way he always had something to talk about with her. But she quickly reminded herself, he was just a friend. She didn't want a relationship, just the freedom to be herself. Avery sat in bean and leaf, sipping her caramel latte. Across from her, Celeste scrolled through her phone, showing photos from a recent exhibit at her gallery. It was a sunny morning, and the coffee shop's large window let in a soft glow, illuminating the wooden tables and shelves of books. Avery was feeling better than she had been a few weeks ago. Work, yoga, and time with friends had helped keep thoughts of Calvin at bay. But today, Celeste clearly had a different conversation in mind. "Look, this artist is a genius," Celeste said, showing a photo of a bright abstract painting. "I want it for the next exhibition. Do you think this style would work in our space?" "It looks cool," Avery said, leaning toward the screen. "The colors are bold, but not too loud. I think it'll fit in." "Great, I knew you'd understand." Celeste put the phone away and leaned back in her chair. "Okay, now tell me what's new with you. How's your Finn?" Avery choked on her coffee. "My Finn? Cell, he's not mine. We're just friends." "Yeah, right." Celeste narrowed her eyes, her lips stretching into a sly smile. "You go to concerts, have picnics, swap playlists. It's not just friends, it's something more." "Nothing like that." Avery set her mug down on the table a little more abruptly than she intended. "We're coworkers who hang out sometimes. He's cool, but that's it." "Oh, come on," Celeste rolled her eyes. "I saw the way he looked at you at that picnic. When you threw the frisbee and almost hit Matt, he laughed like it was the best thing he'd ever seen. That's not just a friendly look, Ave." "You're exaggerating," Avery said, crossing her arms. "Finn just got divorced. He, like me, just needs to relax and not jump into another relationship." "He may be relaxing, but he's clearly in love," Celeste insisted, leaning closer. "Seriously, have you noticed how he always listens to you? Like every word you say is a world premiere. And he's always inviting you out. It's not just like that." Avery frowned into her mug. She thought of Finn encouraging her to catch a frisbee at the picnic, or how he'd sent her a playlist labeled "For Your Work Nights." But she quickly shook those thoughts away. "Cell, you've been reading too many romance novels. He's just being friendly, and I've made it clear I don't want anything serious." "Yeah, you tell yourself that too," Celeste pointed a finger into the air. "But I see you smiling when you talk about him. Admit it, you like him a little bit." "He's okay," Avery shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. "He's fun. He doesn't try to be someone he's not, like Calvin does. But that doesn't mean I want to date him." "Why not?" Celeste asked, sipping her coffee. "He's cute, smart, knows his stuff about music, and apparently he doesn't lie like your ex." "Because I'm not ready," Avery said firmly. "Calvin broke my heart, Cell. I trusted him, and he lied about everything, about work, about money, even about where he was at night. I don't want to go through that again. I need time to just be myself." Celeste's gaze softened. "I understand, Ave. I really do. But you can't hide from everyone forever just because one idiot tricked you. Finn doesn't seem like that." "Maybe not," Avery agreed, "but I still don't want to risk it. Finn and I are friends, and that's enough for me. Plus, I finally feel free. Yoga, freelancing, hanging out with you, that's what I need right now." "Okay, I won't push it," Celeste said, raising her hands. "But I still think he's into you. And if you change your mind, don't say I didn't warn you." "I won't change my mind," Avery snapped, but the corners of her lips twitched. "Better tell me how your exhibition is going. Have you made arrangements with that artist yet?" Celeste turned enthusiastically to her work, telling her about her negotiations with the artist and plans for the opening. Avery listened, nodding, but her friend's words were spinning in her head. Was Finn really looking at her in a special way? She remembered him singing along with her during a concert or offering her his sweater when it got chilly at the picnic. But she quickly reminded herself that it was just a friendly concern. She didn't want to read any hidden meaning into his actions. It was too much like her relationship with Calvin when she tried to justify his lies. Later, back home, Avery opened her laptop to finish a sketch for a client. Her phone beeped a text from Finn. "I found a new band, you'll like it. Want me to send you a track," he wrote. "Go ahead," she replied, smiling. A minute later, he sent a link to the song and added, "If you like it, they're performing next week. I can get tickets." Avery thought about it. A concert wasn't a date, just another night with a friend. But Celeste's words were still ringing in her head. She typed, "Sounds cool, but I'll check my schedule. Send me the details." "Okay, no pressure," Finn replied. "Just let me know." Avery put her phone down and went back to work. She wasn't going to let Celeste's innuendo get her down. Finn was just a coworker and friend who'd gone through a bad breakup like her. She enjoyed his company, his dry humor, and the way he always had something interesting to talk about. But she wasn't going to complicate things with romance. After Calvin, she'd promised herself her freedom, and that was what mattered most. That evening, she met Celeste and Lucas at a bar, where they planned to discuss Jasper's upcoming party. Lucas was in high spirits as usual, telling her how he had tried to fix his bike and nearly broke it completely. "Are you serious?" Avery laughed. "Maybe you should just buy a new one?" "No way," Lucas replied, waving his arms. "This bike is my comrade in arms. We've been through a lot. Through a lot of things like your falls," Celeste teased, and everyone laughed. As Lucas went to get a beer, Celeste leaned toward Avery. "So, is Finn going to be at Jasper's party?" "I don't know," Avery said with a shrug. "He didn't say. But even if he did, it wouldn't change anything. We're friends, Cel. Stop looking for romance where there isn't any." "I'm just watching," Celeste said innocently. "But if he's there, watch the way he looks at you. I bet I'm right." "No arguments," Avery nudged her shoulder. "Anyway, let's figure out what to bring Jasper." He said no gifts, but I still want something. "That's a good idea," Celeste agreed. "Maybe a bottle of wine or something for his dog." They continued chatting, and Avery tried to shift the conversation to the party. But deep down, she wondered if Finn would be there. Avery knocked on Finn's door, holding a bag of snacks. It was Friday, and he'd invited her to listen to some new records he'd bought at Vinyl Haven. She agreed, thinking it would be a great way to unwind after a stressful week at work. The door opened, and Finn emerged wearing jeans and a dark green t-shirt, a small smile on his face. "Hello, come in," he said, stepping aside. "You're just in time. I was just deciding where to start." "Hey," Avery said, taking off her sneakers at the door. "Here, I got some chips and dip. I hope it goes with your vinyl rituals." "Perfect," Finn laughed, taking the bag. "Come in and make yourself comfortable." Finn's apartment was cozy. Hardwood floors, a couch with lots of pillows, shelves filled with records and books. A record player sat in the corner, next to a box of new vinyls. 2 bottles of beer and a bowl of nuts were already on the coffee table. Avery plopped down on the couch, feeling right at home. "So, what's on the agenda?" she asked, watching Finn shuffle through the records. "There are a couple of options," he answered, holding up 2 covers. "This one is indie rock, a local band, pretty raw sound. And this one is folk, more laid back. Which do you choose?" "Let's go indie," Avery said. "I want something energetic." "Good choice," Finn nodded, putting the record on the turntable. The needle dropped, and the room filled with a guitar riff and raspy vocals. Avery leaned back on the couch, sipping her beer. "Sounds cool. Where'd you dig these up?" "Same store," Finn said, sitting down next to me. "The owner recommended it, said they played at the bar last week, but I missed it." "Too bad," Avery said. "We could have gone. You're my guide to local music now." "Is it official?" Finn grinned. "Then I need to make you a list of gigs." "Just without the country," she teased, and they both laughed. They chatted about music, work, and Jasper's recent party. Finn told her about his friend Matt trying to dance and nearly knocking over the snack table, and Avery shared how Celeste tried to get everyone to sing karaoke. The conversation flowed easily, and Avery found herself loving the way Finn looked at her intently, with a small smile like her words actually mattered. When the first record ended, Finn stood up to change it. "You want something slower?" he asked, rummaging through the box. "Okay," Avery replied, opening the chips. "Just not too sad. I'm not in the mood for tears." "Got it," he said, selecting a record with a bright yellow cover. "It's an acoustic indie, should do the trick." The music started up, soft guitar chords and soft female vocals. Avery nodded along to the beat, feeling herself relax. Finn sat closer than usual, and she noticed he was a little nervous, his fingers fiddling with the label of his beer. "Listen, Ave," he said suddenly, looking at his hands. "Can I say something?" "Of course," she replied, turning to him. "What is it?" He took a deep breath and looked into her eyes. I think of you as more than just a friend. I really like you. More than just a coworker or someone I go to concerts with." Avery froze, her heart beating faster. She hadn't expected it, though Celeste's words about Finn being in love came back to her now. She set her beer down, trying to collect her thoughts. "Finn, she began, but then trailed off, unsure of how to continue. His gaze was so sincere that she felt embarrassed at her own confusion. "I don't know what to say. It's unexpected. I'm sorry if this is too much," he said quickly, holding up his hands. "I didn't mean to put you on edge. I just thought I should be honest." "No, it's okay," Avery said, forcing a smile. "I appreciate your honesty. I really do. You're great, Finn. You're easy to be around, and I enjoy spending time with you." "But," he asked, tilting his head slightly. She sighed, looking at her hands. "But I'm not ready for a relationship. After Calvin, he shattered everything I thought I knew about him. I trusted him, and he lied about everything. I promised myself I'd take some time off to figure myself out. I need my freedom, you know?" Finn nodded, though there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. "I know. I didn't mean to push. It's just, I don't know, you're special, Eve. I couldn't keep it to myself." "Thank you," she said quietly, feeling the warmth of his words. "You're special too. And I'm not saying it won't ever happen. Maybe later, when I'm ready, we could try. But for now, I just want to be your friend." "Friendship's cool too," Finn said, forcing a smile. "I don't want it to ruin everything. We can still go to concerts, right?" "Sure," Avery said, relieved. "And picnics, and arguing about which chips are better." "Deal," he laughed, but his laugh was a little quieter than usual. They switched to music, discussing the record that was playing. Finn told them how he found it at a thrift store, and Avery shared that she had recently added a couple of new tracks to her playlist. But there was a slight awkwardness in the air, and Avery noticed that Finn was trying not to look at her for too long. An hour later, she decided it was time to go home. "Thanks for tonight," she said, putting on her jacket. "The records are awesome. Send me the name of that folk group, okay?" "Sure," Finn replied, walking her to the door. "See you at the office." "Yeah, Monday," she nodded. "Good night." "Calm down," he said, and she walked out, feeling a strange mixture of emotions. At home, Avery flopped down on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Finn's confession had caught her off guard, but she couldn't deny that his words had struck a chord. He was sincere, not like Calvin, who was always playing games. But the thought of another relationship was terrifying. She remembered how Calvin had promised her the world, only to find out it was all a lie. She didn't want to make the same mistake again. She picked up her phone and wrote to Celeste. "Finn admitted that he likes me." The answer came a second later. "I told you so, and what did you say?" "That I'm not ready," Avery wrote. "I want to stay friends. Bye." "Bye? Sounds like not over yet," Celeste replied, adding a smiley face. With a wink. "But you did well to be honest. Did he accept it?" "I guess so," Avery wrote. "But it was awkward." "That's okay," Celeste replied. "The main thing is that you told it like it is. And then we'll see." Calm down. Avery sat at her desk in the Bright Vibe office, reviewing designs for a new client. It was a busy Monday morning, with Mira handing out assignments, phones buzzing, and someone discussing the previous night's football game in the corner. Avery glanced across the table to Finn, who was sitting across from her, his head buried in his laptop. He didn't look up when she walked in, and only nodded briefly at her hello. It wasn't like him. He usually greeted her with a joke or a question about the weekend. She opened a work chat and wrote, "Hey, what do you think about the font for this banner? I'm between two options." Finn replied after a minute, "Both are fine. The second one is probably better read." Avery frowned. Usually he would go into detail, offer ideas, or at least joke about her love of bold fonts. Today his response was dry, like a report. She decided not to dwell on it and went back to work, but a slight feeling of discomfort remained. For lunch, she suggested going to their usual cafe. "Finn, are you going for sandwiches?" she asked, standing up and grabbing her bag. "Not today," he replied, without looking up from the screen. "I have a lot to do. I'll pick something up later." "Okay," Avery said, trying not to show her surprise. "If you change your mind, right." She walked out of the office alone, feeling a tingle of unease in her chest. Finn had been acting strange ever since he'd told her how he felt about her on Friday. He'd said he wanted to remain friends, and she'd hoped that would be the case. But now he was distant, almost distant. Was he just busy, or was he hurt? At the cafe, Avery ordered her usual turkey sandwich and sat by the window. She opened her phone and texted Celeste. "Finn is kind of cold today. I don't know what to think." Celeste answered almost immediately. "Well, he confessed to you, and you said, 'Let's stay friends.' Maybe he needs time." "Maybe," Avery wrote. "But he said he was okay. Now he can barely talk." "Give him a couple of days," Celeste replied. "If it continues, talk to him. Don't get worked up yet." Avery sighed and put her phone away. Celeste was right, she shouldn't jump to conclusions. But it still felt awkward. She'd gotten used to their easy conversations, to Finn sending her new tracks or inviting her to concerts. Now he seemed distant, and it hurt her more than she wanted to admit. Back at the office, she found Finn talking to a colleague, Leela, about a project. He was laughing, and his usual easygoing manner was back, but not with her. Avery felt a twinge of irritation, but quickly pushed it aside. She had no right to be jealous. She had asked for friendship, and he had accepted. That evening, she went to yoga, hoping the exercise would help take her mind off things. The instructor, Clara, was as energetic as ever, and Avery tried to focus on her breathing and her poses. But thoughts of Finn kept creeping into her head. She remembered their night with the records, the sincere look in his eyes when he told her he liked her. She'd been sure she'd done the right thing by turning him down. But now that he'd pulled away, she was starting to have second thoughts. After class, she met Celeste at a nearby bar. They ordered drinks, and Avery immediately spilled everything that was bothering her. "He didn't even come to lunch with me today," she said, twirling the straw in her glass. "We usually go together. Now he's giving monosyllables like I'm annoying him." "Well, Eve," Celeste looked at her sympathetically, "you know why. He told you how he felt, and you said not now. It doesn't mean he's angry, but he's probably hurt." "But he said he wanted to be friends," Avery countered. "I was being honest. I didn't want to lie to him." "And it's great that you were honest," Celeste agreed. "But feelings don't just go away. Maybe he's trying to keep his distance so he doesn't get his hopes up in vain." Avery frowned. "So you think he's avoiding me? What? Protect himself?" "Maybe," Celeste shrugged. "Or he's just getting used to the fact that you're just friends. Give him time. If he's a normal guy, he'll come around." "What if he doesn't?" Avery asked, looking into her glass. "I don't want to lose him. He's a really good friend." Celeste narrowed her eyes. "Just a friend, because you sound like you care." "Of course I care," Avery snapped. "But not in the way you think. I've just gotten used to him. to our conversations, to his stupid playlists. I don't want any of that to go away. Then talk to him, Celeste advised. Not right away, give him a couple of days. But if he continues to behave like this, ask him directly what's wrong. You're not one to keep quiet. Maybe you're right, Avery said, sipping her drink. But I still feel guilty. Like I hurt him, even though I just told the truth. It's not your fault, Celeste said firmly. You don't have to respond to his feelings just because he expressed them. You were honest, and that's what matters. Now it's his turn to cope. Avery nodded, but inside she was still uneasy. She didn't want to admit it, but Finn's withdrawal was hurting her. She'd grown accustomed to his warmth, the way he brightened her days. Now that it was gone, she felt empty. The next day at the office, Finn was a little more talkative, but still distant. They discussed a new project, but he didn't joke around like he used to or offer to go for coffee. Avery tried to act normal, but his coldness was obvious. Hey, have you heard about that band playing at the Douglas Fir this weekend? She asked, hoping to get them back into their groove. Oh yeah, I heard, Finn replied, not looking up from the screen. I'm not sure I'll go. Lots of plans. Okay, Avery said, feeling her smile fade. If you change your mind, let me know. Yeah, he nodded, and that was the end of the conversation. By the end of the week, their meetings had become infrequent. Finn no longer invited her to concerts or sent her playlists. He was polite at the office, but their usual lunches together had ceased. Avery noticed that he was socializing more with other coworkers, especially Leela, who always laughed at his jokes. It shouldn't have bothered her, but for some reason it did. On Friday night, she was sitting at home, scrolling through her phone. Finn hadn't texted since the beginning of the week, and she was starting to wonder if she'd been too harsh in her rejection. Maybe she should have explained it more gently, or had he simply changed his mind about being her friend? She opened their text messages and wrote, "Hey, is everything okay? We haven't seen each other in ages." He replied half an hour later, "Everything is fine, just busy. How are you?" "Also fine," she wrote. "Want to grab some coffee sometime? We haven't chatted in a while." "Maybe next week," he replied. "I've got a lot of things to do right now." Avery stared at the screen, feeling a tightness in her chest. This wasn't the Finn who'd taken her on picnics and argued about chips. She put her phone down and turned on one of his old playlists, trying to distract herself. But the music only reminded her of how easy things used to be. She called Celeste, unable to bear it. "Cel, he's become completely distant," she said as soon as her friend picked up the phone. "I wrote to him, and he answers as if I'm a stranger. What did I do wrong?" "You didn't do anything," Celeste replied. "He's probably trying to cope with the fact that you didn't reciprocate. That's his problem, not yours." "But I don't want him to disappear," Avery admitted. I don't know, he made everything more fun." "Then tell him so," Celeste advised. "But don't push. If he doesn't ready to just be a friend, you can't force him." Avery hung up the phone, feeling lost. She hadn't expected Finn's confession to change everything the way it did. She missed their conversations, his jokes, their spontaneous outings. But she didn't know how to get it back without giving him false hope. Avery sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by sketches and empty coffee cups. A spreadsheet of deadlines glowed on her laptop screen. 3 freelance projects she'd taken on this week to fill the void left by Finn's suspension. She liked the sense of control the job gave her. Each completed layout was a small victory. But she still felt a little sad in her chest, especially when she thought about the times Finn would send her playlists or invite her on spontaneous outings. She pushed the thoughts away and opened her inbox to a new client request. Branding for an eco-friendly candle startup. "Okay, Avery, focus," she muttered, rubbing her eyes. "You wanted freedom, here it is." To shake things up, she signed up for a pottery class at a local studio, which Celeste had mentioned a month earlier. The first class was scheduled for the evening, and Avery decided it was a chance to try something new that wasn't tied to work or her past relationship. She also downloaded a dating app at Celeste's urging. "Just have fun," her friend said. Nobody's forcing you to get married. Avery was skeptical about the idea, but curiosity got the better of her. That evening, she arrived at the ceramic studio, a small room with the smell of clay and rows of clay pots on shelves. The instructor, a woman named Rona with colorful tattoos on her arms, greeted the group. "Hello, newbies," Rona said, gesturing to the tables with lumps of clay. "Today, we're going to make simple bowls. Don't worry about getting dirty, it's part of the process." Avery sat down at the pottery wheel, feeling a little awkward. Her neighbor, a girl with short purple hair, introduced herself as Zoe. "First time?" Zoe asked, deftly shaping the clay. "Yeah," Avery said, trying not to squash her lump. "It's harder than it looks." "Just relax," Zoe advised. "Imagine you're dancing with clay." Avery laughed, and by the end of the class her bowl was lopsided but recognizable. She felt a surge of pride as she photographed her creation for Celeste. "Look, I'm a ceramicist now," she wrote, attaching a photo. "Ha, cool," Celeste replied. "You'll be selling your masterpieces soon. How's the app going? Have you found your prince yet?" Avery rolled her eyes but opened the app. Among the dozens of messages, she picked out a guy named Noah. His profile looked normal, with a photo of him on a bike and a caption about his love for technology. They'd been messaging each other for a couple of days, and he'd suggested meeting at a bar downtown. "Why not?" Avery said to herself, confirming the meeting. On Friday, she wore a black dress and boots, deciding not to bother with makeup. The bar was loud, with neon signs and a crowd at the bar. Noah was already waiting for her, in jeans and a shirt, with a big smile. "Avery, huh?" he said, holding out his hand. "It's great that you came." "Hi, Noah," she replied, shaking his hand. "Yeah, good to get out." They ordered drinks, and the conversation started off easy. Noah explained that he works at a tech startup, loves cycling, and recently moved to Portland. But after half an hour, he switched to cryptocurrency. "Listen, have you heard about the new blockchain?" he said, his eyes lighting up. "It's the future. I put a few coins in, and if all goes according to plan, I'll be on my yacht in a year." Cool," Avery replied, trying to make conversation. "What kind of coins?" That was a mistake. Noah launched into a lecture about decentralized finance, mining, and some tokens she'd never heard of. Avery nodded, but her mind had wandered to her lopsided ceramic bowl. When he suggested they continue the evening at his place, she hesitated. She didn't want to go back to an empty apartment, and Noah, despite his obsession with crypto, seemed harmless. "Okay, go ahead," she said, deciding that this was just part of her free life. Noah's apartment was immaculately clean, with a bunch of gadgets and a huge computer screen. They drank wine, and one thing led to another. The night was passable, but nothing special. In the morning, Avery left while Noah was asleep, leaving a thank you note. In the cab, she felt empty. Noah was cute, but his endless monologue about crypto was a dead giveaway. It wasn't what she was looking for. A week later, she agreed to another date, this time with Liam, a guy from the app who called himself the life of the party. They met at a Mexican restaurant, and Liam immediately started showering her with compliments. "You look even better than in the photo," he said, winking. "How did I guess this place?" "The food here is great," Avery replied, smiling. "Do you come here often?" "When I want to impress," he replied, leaning closer. "And you're clearly worth it." Avery was flattered by his attention, and the conversation flowed briskly. Liam was charming, telling funny stories about his work as a bartender and parties with friends. After dinner, he suggested going for a walk, and they ended the evening at his apartment. The sex was spontaneous, but Avery again felt something was missing. Liam was too pushy, and the next morning he started bombarding her with messages. "Hey, when can I see you again?" he texted an hour after she left. "You're awesome. Let's do it tonight." "I'm busy," Avery replied, feeling irritated. "Maybe next week." But Liam persisted, sending memes, emojis, and questions about her plans. By the end of the day, she had blocked him, deciding that clinginess wasn't her thing. Both dates left her disappointed. Noah and Liam were cute, but their encounters felt empty, lacking the ease of Finn. That evening, she met Celeste at their favorite bar. Celeste, as always, ordered something bright with an umbrella, and Avery got a beer. "So, how's your free life going?" Celeste asked, stirring her cocktail. "Tell me about these guys." Avery sighed. "Unimpressive. The first one, Noah, he only talked about crypto. Even during, he mentioned Bitcoin. And Liam was kind of funny, but too clingy. I blocked him after a day." "Wow," Celeste laughed. "Bitcoin in bed? That's the next level. But Ave, at least you're trying. That's progress." "Progress?" Avery shook her head. "I thought this would be fun, but so far it's just a waste of time. Maybe I don't need to date at all." "Take your time," Celeste said. "You're just getting started, and you're not looking for a husband. Just enjoy yourself." "Easy to say," Avery said, taking a sip of her beer. Sometimes I think about Finn. It was, I don't know, easier, without all that nonsense." Celeste narrowed her eyes. "Aha, there it is. You miss him, huh?" "It's not that I miss him," Avery said quickly. "He was just a good friend. Now we barely talk. He doesn't even come to lunch anymore." "Well, you know why," Celeste said softly. "He gave you the space you asked for. Maybe it's for the best. You wanted freedom, and here it is." Avery sat in the Bright Vibe office, going over color palettes for a new project. The morning was quiet, save for the hum of the coffee machine and the snatches of conversation among her coworkers. She tried to concentrate, but her thoughts kept wandering to Finn. His distance had become habitual over the past few weeks, but it was no less annoying. He was still polite, but their conversations had been reduced to work-related matters, and the smile he once gave her seemed rare. Avery opened a work chat to ask his opinion on a layout, but thought better of it and closed the window. No need to intrude. During her lunch break, she walked into the small break room where the staff usually gathered. Celeste was already there, having popped into the office to discuss the design of her gallery with Mira. Avery plopped down on the couch next to her friend, holding a container of salad. "Hi," Celeste said, looking up from her phone. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "Thanks for the compliment," Avery snorted, opening the container. "Just deadlines, and maybe a little sleep deprivation." "Yeah, or you're worried about Finn," Celeste teased, lowering her voice. "I saw him in the hallway. He was so cold. What's going on?" Avery shrugged, trying to look unconcerned. "Nothing new. He's still in minimal communication mode. I'm used to it." "You don't look like you're used to it," Celeste said, narrowing her eyes. "You miss him, huh?" "Sit down, that's enough." Avery rolled her eyes. "I don't miss him. It's just, well, he was a great friend, and now he's like a stranger. It's annoying." "Well, you wanted freedom," Celeste reminded, taking a bite of her apple. "And from what you tell me, you got it. How are your dates going? That crypto guru and Mr. Sticky?" Avery snorted, lowering her voice. "Noah and Liam. Total failure. Noah was talking about blockchain in bed, and Liam was texting me 100 times a day until I blocked him. Honestly, I regret ever downloading the app." Celeste laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. "God, you're picky. But maybe this is a sign you should take a closer look at someone, like Finn." "Sit down, seriously." Avery jabbed her fork into the air. "I don't want anything to do with Finn. He's the one who pulled away, and I'm not going to beg him to get back together." Their conversation was interrupted when Avery's colleague Leela walked into the room. She poured herself a coffee and must have overheard a snippet of the conversation because she turned around curiously. "Oh, you mean dating?" Leela asked, sitting down at the table. "Avery, are you on apps? Tell me how it is." Avery hesitated, but Leela seemed genuinely interested. "Well, not yet," she said, trying to sound neutral. "A couple of dates, but nothing serious. Have you tried?" "Yeah, but I gave up pretty quickly," said Leela, laughing. They were all either too boring or too weird. Do you have any funny stories? Avery smiled, deciding not to elaborate. There were a couple. One guy kept talking about cryptocurrency even at dinner, and the other one kept texting me like we were already married. Leela giggled. Classic. Well, good luck. Tell me if you find someone normal. The conversation moved on to other topics, and Avery let out a sigh of relief, glad that Leela hadn't probed any further. But she hadn't noticed that Leela had remembered the details of her story. Later, at the office, Leela was chatting with another coworker, Matt, and mentioned that Avery had fun on dates. Matt, who was friends with Finn, accidentally let it slip during their conversation later in the day. I heard Avery's been partying hard, Matt said as they sipped coffee in the lounge. Leela said she's been dating through apps. Sounds like she's been keeping busy. Finn, who had been scrolling through his phone, froze. Seriously, he asked, trying to sound casual. Did she mention anything like that? Well, not me, Matt said with a shrug. Leela heard her talking to her friend. Sounds like she's having quite the adventure there. Finn nodded, but his face became tense. Cool, he said shortly and changed the subject. Avery knew nothing about this conversation, but the next day she noticed that Finn had become even colder. He didn't respond to her work chat message, and when she asked him what he thought of the layout, he mumbled something unintelligible and quickly went to answer a call. By lunchtime, she couldn't stand it any longer and approached his desk. Finn, are you okay? She asked, trying to sound calm. You've been kind of different lately. It's all good, he replied, looking at the monitor. Just a lot of work. Deadlines, you know. Okay, Avery said, feeling her irritation grow. I'm always over for coffee if you want to chat. Yeah, thanks, he replied without looking up. Maybe later. She walked away, clenching her fists. It wasn't just that he was busy. He was clearly avoiding her, and she didn't understand why. That evening, she called Celeste to talk it out. Cel, he won't talk to me at all now, Avery said, pacing her apartment. I tried to talk to him today, and he responded like I was annoying him. What did I do? Celeste thought. Maybe he found out something. You talked to Leela about your dates. Rumors travel fast in offices. You think he knows? Avery paused. But I've been open about dating. Now he's ignoring me because of that? Well, think about it, Celeste said. He confessed his feelings for you, and then he hears that you're seeing other people. Even if he said he wanted to be friends, it probably hurts him. But I was honest, Avery protested. I said I wasn't ready for a relationship, and he agreed to be friends. Why should I feel guilty now? You shouldn't, Celeste said. But he's a human being, Ave. When he found out you were, well, sleeping with other guys, he probably assumed you definitely didn't want anything with him. That's why he kept his distance. Avery sank down onto the couch, holding the phone to her ear. It's not fair. I didn't ask him to wait for me, and I'm not doing anything wrong. Of course you don't, Celeste agreed. But he can't seem to be just a friend, knowing you're seeing someone else. Maybe you could talk to him, ask him directly. I tried, Avery said. He's been brushing me off. I don't want to look like I'm chasing him. Then give him time, Celeste advised. If he wants to be friends, he'll come back. And if not, well, that's his choice. Avery hung up, feeling a mixture of anger and hurt. She didn't want to admit it, but Finn's coldness hurt her. She missed their conversations, his jokes, the way he made her days easier. She opened their text messages, but the last message he'd sent her was a week ago, a quick reply about work. She threw the phone on the couch and turned on the TV, trying to distract herself. The next day at the office, Finn was just as distant. He talked to Leela and Matt, laughed at their jokes, but he was formal with Avery. When she passed his desk, he didn't even look up. Avery felt a lump in her throat. She didn't understand why it bothered her so much. She wanted her freedom, right? But why did his indifference feel like a betrayal? That evening, she went to pottery, hoping the clay would help ease her tension. She made a vase, but her thoughts were on Finn. Maybe he found out about Noah and Liam and thought she was playing with his feelings. But she was honest from the start. Or was she? She remembered telling him maybe later, and now she wondered if she had given him false hope. After class, she wrote to Celeste. I think you're right. He probably knows about dating, but I don't know how to fix it. Don't fix it, Celeste said. You didn't break anything. Live your life, Ave. If he can't handle it, that's his problem. Avery stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the navy blouse she'd picked out for the opening of Celeste's gallery. She wasn't a big fan of art events, but Celeste had insisted she come to support her. Plus, after weeks of freelancing and disappointing dates, Avery needed a distraction. She threw on jeans, boots, and a light scarf, deciding she was stylish enough without going overboard. She grabbed her bag and walked out of the apartment, feeling a little excited. The gallery was in a trendy Portland neighborhood, with exposed brick walls and large windows. When Avery walked in, the room was already buzzing with conversation. People with glasses of wine were looking at the paintings and photographs hanging on the walls. Celeste noticed her immediately and waved as she made her way through the crowd. Ave, you came, Celeste exclaimed, hugging her. You look gorgeous. Come, I'll show you the work. It's something incredible. Hey, Avery smiled. The place is packed. You're definitely the star of the party. I try, Celeste winked, handing her a glass of white wine. Come on, let's start with the photos. Tess took them. She's one of our art community. Very talented. Avery nodded, following her friend to a wall of black and white photographs. The photos were atmospheric. Portland street scenes, portraits of musicians, shots of rainy alleys. She was impressed, but her attention was distracted by a familiar laugh. She turned and froze. A few feet away stood Finn, dressed in a dark shirt and jeans, holding a drink. Next to him was a woman tall, with short brown hair and a bright yellow dress. She was laughing, touching his shoulder, and Finn was smiling at her the way Avery used to smile. Avery's heart sank, although she didn't want to admit it. Who is this? She asked Celeste, trying to sound casual. Celeste followed her gaze and frowned slightly. Oh, that's Tess, the photographer whose work we've been looking at. She's recently started hanging out with our group. Why? Nothing, Avery said quickly, taking a sip of her wine. It's just, is Finn with her? Celeste narrowed her eyes, obviously picking up on her tone. Well, they kind of started dating. Unofficially, but they're together a lot. He didn't tell you. No, Avery said, feeling a lump in her throat. We barely talk. Celeste looked at her sympathetically. Sorry, Ave. I thought you knew. They met a couple of weeks ago at some concert. They seem to have a lot in common: music, art, all that. Cool, Avery managed to say, trying to smile. I'm happy for him. But inside, she felt no joy. She watched Tess say something to Finn, and he nodded, laughing. Their ease, their closeness, it all cut her like a knife. She didn't understand why it hurt her so much. She told Finn she wasn't ready for a relationship. She'd gone on her own dates, lived her free life. So why did the sight of Finn with another girl cause such a burning in her chest? Celeste put her hand on her shoulder. Hey, are you okay? You look a little pale. It's okay, Avery said, looking away. I just didn't expect to see him here, and with anyone. I understand, Celeste said quietly. Would you like to go look at the paintings in the other room? There are fewer people there. No, I'm fine, Avery straightened up, determined not to show weakness. Let's stay. Tell me about the photos. Celeste nodded, but her eyes were full of worry. She began to explain how Tess had taken her pictures, but Avery was only half listening. Her eyes kept flickering to Finn and Tess. They looked happy, like they'd known each other for years. Tess touched Finn's arm, pointing to one of the photographs, and he leaned in to listen. Avery's grip on her glass was tighter than necessary. She forced herself to walk with Celeste to another booth, one filled with colorful abstract paintings. Talking to her friend about artists and the gallery's plans helped distract her, but not completely. Half an hour later, she noticed Finn and Tess heading for the exit. Finn caught her eye and nodded slightly, but didn't come over. Tess didn't even seem to notice her. They left, and Avery felt the tension in her chest give way to emptiness. "Sit down, I'll probably go soon," she said, finishing her wine. "I'm a little tired." "Already?" Celeste was surprised. "Okay, but are you sure everything is okay? Is this because of Finn?" "No," Avery lied. "Just a lot of work, and ceramics tomorrow morning. I want to get some sleep." "Okay," Celeste said, clearly not believing it. "But if you want to talk, call, and thanks for coming." "Sure," Avery said, hugging her. "The exhibit is awesome. You're doing great." She left the gallery and walked toward her car, feeling the cool evening air. Images of Finn and Tess swirled in her head, their laughter, their closeness. She tried to tell herself she didn't care, but she didn't. For the first time, she felt a twinge of jealousy, sharp and unexpected. She didn't want Finn, or did she? She didn't know. But seeing him with someone else hurt, and it scared her. At home, she kicked off her shoes and fell onto the couch, turning on her phone. She opened the conversation with Finn, but the last message was her own, unanswered, from a week ago. She wanted to text him something to ask how he was doing, or mention the exhibition, but she decided against it. Instead, she called Celeste. "Cel, you were right," she said when her friend answered. "I saw Finn with Tess, and, I don't know, it got to me." "Oh, Eve," Celeste's voice softened. "I thought so. You're jealous, aren't you?" "I don't want to say that," Avery muttered. "But, yeah, I guess. It's stupid. I told him I didn't want a relationship. Why do I feel so bad now?" "Because you're not made of iron," Celeste replied. "You got used to him, to the way he was with you. And now he's with someone else, and it's hurting your pride. Or maybe you do feel something for him after all." "No," Avery said quickly. "I don't. I'm just, I don't know, angry that he switched so easily. He said he liked me." "He gave you a chance, Eve," Celeste said softly. "You chose freedom. He doesn't have to wait. Maybe Tess just showed up at the right time." Avery was silent, processing her friend's words. She knew Celeste was right, but that didn't make the pain any easier. "What do I do now?" she asked finally. "Move on," Celeste said. "You wanted independence. Take pottery classes, do your own projects, date whoever you want. If Finn is happy with Tess, that's his choice, and you'll find yours." "Easy to say," Avery sighed. "Okay, thanks for listening. Have a good day." "Calm down," Celeste replied, "and don't get worked up, okay?" Avery hung up the phone and stared at the ceiling. Avery stood in front of her closet, sorting through her clothes for Celeste's party. She wanted to look confident, but not like she was trying too hard. Ever since the art show where she'd seen Finn with Tess, she'd been feeling like she was missing out on something. She didn't call it jealousy, at least not out loud, but the idea that Finn had replaced her so easily was nagging at her. Tonight, she'd decided to try to recapture their old ease, at least as friends. She'd chosen a black low-cut t-shirt, dark jeans, and silver earrings, deciding that it was cool enough for the party. Celeste's apartment was already full when Avery arrived. Music was blasting, people were crowded in the living room and kitchen, and there were bowls of chips and bottles of beer on the table. Celeste met her at the door, cocktail in hand. "Ave, there you are," she exclaimed, hugging her. "You look great. Come on, I'll get you something to drink." "Thank you," Avery smiled, looking around. "Lots of people. Who are all these people?" "Half our friends from the gallery, half our friends of friends," Celeste replied, leading her toward the kitchen. "Finn's here, by the way, with Tess." Avery felt her stomach clench, but she nodded, trying to look unconcerned. "Cool. Where's the bar?" Celeste handed her the beer, but her gaze was attentive. "Are you okay? You weren't in the mood after the exhibition." "It's okay," Avery said, taking a sip of her beer. "Just wanting to have fun. No drama." "Okay," Celeste said, but she clearly didn't believe it. "If anything happens, I'm here. Come on, I'll introduce you to a couple of artists. Avery followed her, chatting with the new people and trying to fit in. But her eyes kept searching for Finn. She spotted him in the corner of the living room, standing with Tess, holding a bottle of beer, laughing at something she said. Tess was wearing a bright sweater and jeans, her short hair slightly disheveled, and she looked relaxed. Avery clutched the bottle tighter, feeling a twinge of irritation. She didn't want to be the one ruining her night because of someone else's new girlfriend, but she couldn't look away. Ave, are you with us? Celeste called out, noticing her distraction. Yes, sorry, Avery said, returning to her conversation with an artist named Kai, who was talking about his latest work. But after a few minutes, she excused herself and headed to the kitchen for another beer, deciding it was time to do something. Finn had just moved away from Tess to get some chips. Avery saw her chance and walked up to him, trying to look casual. Hey, Finn, long time no see, she said, smiling. How are you? He turned around, and for a second his face lit up with the familiar warmth, but then he seemed to remember something and became more serious. Hi, Ave. Everything's fine. And you? Also fine, she replied, leaning in a little closer to shout over the music. I missed your playlists. You promised to send me the one with the folk group. Oh, right, he said, rubbing the back of his head. Sorry, I got caught up. I'll send it. I'll be waiting, she replied, lightly touching his arm. Remember how we argued about what was better, folk or indie? I'm still sticking with indie. Finn smiled, but his smile was reserved. Yeah, you were stubborn, as always. Hey, it's called taste, she teased, trying to bring back their old ease. Listen, were you at that concert last week? I wanted to go, but I was swamped with work. No, I missed it, he replied, looking off to the side. I was busy. Avery felt the conversation bogging down, but she decided to press on. Well, if you're up for the next one, let me know. We had a blast at that Douglas fir gig. Remember how you almost spilled your beer when the crowd started jumping? Yeah, he chuckled, but his gaze slid to Tess, who was chatting with someone in the living room. It was fun. Avery noticed his gaze and decided to approach him from a different angle. Celeste said you were with a photographer now. Tess, right? She seems cool. Finn looked at her, a wary look in his eyes. Yeah, Tess, she's cool. We're just hanging out, but it's good. Cool, Avery said, trying to sound sincere. I'm glad you found someone. But I miss our outings. Maybe we could get coffee sometime, like we used to. Finn hesitated, rolling the bottle around in his hands. Ave, I'm not sure this is a good idea. Things have changed a little. Her smile faltered. Changed? What do you mean? He sighed, looking into her eyes. Look, I really like you, as a friend, but I'm with Tess now, and she's made it clear she wants to be with me. I don't want to make things more complicated. Avery felt her cheeks heat up. She'd expected him to be gentler, that she could restore their friendship, but his words hit harder than she thought. I'm not trying to make it difficult, she said, trying to keep her voice even. I just thought we could be friends like we used to be, without any implications. I know, he said, his voice softening, and I appreciate it. But after everything that's happened, it's easier for me to keep my distance. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Avery nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. No, it's okay. I get it. You're awesome, Ave, he added, as if to soften the blow. And I don't want you to think it's because of you. It's just what's best for everyone. Okay, she said, looking away. Okay, have fun. I'll see you at the office. She turned and walked toward the kitchen, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected his rejection to be so clear, so final. She'd only wanted to restore their friendship, but instead she felt rejected. Tess walked back to Finn, and Avery saw him smile at her, touching her shoulder. They looked so natural together, and it only added to her confusion. She found Celeste in the living room, dancing with Lucas. Avery joined in, trying to distract herself, but her conversation with Finn was still on her mind. After an hour, she excused herself and went out onto the balcony to get some air. Celeste noticed her leaving and caught up with her a few minutes later. "Hey, what happened?" she asked, closing the door behind her. "It's like you saw a ghost." Avery leaned against the railing, looking out at the city lights. "I talked to Finn. I tried to, I don't know, rekindle our friendship. Reminds him of our hangouts and makes jokes. But he said he was with Tess now, and it was best to keep his distance." "Oh, Ave," Celeste put her hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry. That must hurt." "I don't understand why I feel so bad," Avery admitted, clutching the railing. "I told him I didn't want a relationship, but when he said that, it was like I didn't mean anything to him anymore." "You know," Celeste said, "but he's trying to move on. You let him know you weren't ready, and he found someone who was. That doesn't mean he doesn't care about you." "Then why do I feel like I've lost?" Avery turned to her, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to lose him, even as a friend." "Because you're used to him," Celeste answered softly. "And maybe, deep down, you still feel something for him. But you didn't lose, Ave. You chose your life, and that's okay." Avery was silent, looking out at the street. She didn't want to admit that Celeste was right. She wasn't ready to call her feelings for Finn anything more than friendship. But his words, "It's best for everyone," cut deeper than she expected. She remembered their nights with records, their laughter at the concert, and now it all seemed distant. "Shall we go back?" Celeste suggested. "Lucas is already dancing like a drunken bear. It's worth seeing." Avery forced a smile. "Yeah, right now. Give me a minute." Celeste nodded and returned to the apartment. Avery remained on the balcony, feeling the cool air calm her. Avery sat on the couch in Celeste's apartment, clutching her third drink of the night. The party was still going strong, the music was blaring, people were dancing, and the kitchen had been transformed into a makeshift bar. But after her conversation with Finn on the balcony, where he'd made it clear he was with Tessa now and wanted some distance, Avery felt lost. His words, "What's best for everyone," had been playing in her head, and every time she saw him and Tessa laughing in the corner of the room, her irritation grew. She didn't want to call it jealousy, but it was burning inside her. Celeste plopped down next to him, holding a bottle of beer. "Hey, why are you so gloomy?" she asked, nudging Avery with her shoulder. "This is a party, and you're sitting here like you're at a funeral." "I'm not gloomy," Avery muttered, sipping her drink. "I'm just not in the mood." Celeste narrowed her eyes. "It's about Finn, right? I saw you talking. What did he say?" Avery sighed, looking into her drink. "He said he was with Tessa now, and that it was better for us not to be close friends, like, to keep things simple. I tried to just get back together, but he kind of cut me off." "Oh, Eve," Celeste put a hand on her shoulder. "This sucks. But, maybe he's right. If he's serious with Tessa, he probably doesn't want any confusion." "Confusion?" Avery looked up sharply. "I'm not confused. I've been honest from the start. He's the one who decided I had to disappear from his life because she showed up." "Hey, be quiet," Celeste said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "I'm on your side, but you're mad right now. Maybe you should drink some water and dance." Lucas was already waving his arms like a windmill. "I don't want to dance," Avery snapped, finishing her drink. "And I don't want water. Where's the other booze?" Celeste frowned, but pointed toward the kitchen. "There, but Eve, take it easy, okay? You're already looking not so sober." "I'm fine," Avery said, standing up. She headed toward the kitchen, where she mixed herself another drink, a rum and coke, not really caring about the proportions. When she returned to the living room, she spotted Finn and Tessa by the window. Tessa was showing him something on her phone, and he was laughing, leaning closer. Avery felt her cheeks heat up. She turned away, but the image of them being together was burned into her mind. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her gallery, not quite sure what she was looking for. Her eyes landed on an old photo of Finn and her. the two of them on a picnic in Laurelhurst Park, sitting on a blanket, laughing and holding cans of lemonade. This was before he'd told her, before all this awkwardness. Everything had been simple and good. A drunken mix of anger and longing pushed her to take a rash step. She opened Instagram, added the photo to her story, and typed out the caption, "When things were simpler. Miss those days with you at Fincormac." She hit publish, not giving herself time to change her mind. Avery put her phone down and finished her drink, feeling a fleeting sense of satisfaction. Let Finn see. Let him know she missed their time together too. But after a few minutes, her confidence began to fade. She grabbed her phone to check if she should delete the post, but the notifications were already pouring in likes from friends, a few comments. Her heart began to pound. What had she done? Celeste came back from the kitchen and noticed her panic. "Ave, what happened? It's like you saw a ghost." Avery turned her phone toward her, showing her story. I posted this. With Finn. And I wrote, well there." Celeste read the caption and widened her eyes. "Avery, seriously? Are you drunk? This looks like you're hinting at something more." "I know," Avery groaned, covering her face with her hands. "I wasn't thinking. It's just, I saw them with Tessa, and it just clicked. What do I do now?" "Delete it," Celeste said firmly. "Right now, before anyone else takes a screenshot." Avery opened the app, but her fingers were shaking. "It's too late, Cell. It's already been viewed a ton. And, oh no, Tessa saw it." "Damn," Celeste breathed, taking the phone from her. "Okay, don't panic. Delete it, and then just say you were drunk and didn't mean it that way." Avery deleted the story, but a wave of shame washed over her. She glanced at Finn and Tessa. Tessa was now holding her phone, showing something to Finn, her face more serious than before. Finn glanced at Avery, and their eyes met. His gaze was a mixture of surprise and annoyance. Avery quickly looked away, feeling her cheeks heat up. "I'm an idiot," she muttered, hiding her face in her hands. "Why did I do this?" "Because you're drunk and upset," Celeste said, hugging her. "It was stupid, but it's okay. Just breathe." "No big deal," Avery looked up. "Tessa now thinks I'm trying to interfere with their relationship, and Finn probably hates me." "He doesn't," Celeste countered. "But Eve, you really went too far. Why did you even post that? You said you didn't want anything to do with him." "I don't want to," Avery almost screamed, but then lowered her voice when she saw Lucas looking at them sideways. I don't know. I saw them together and it made me feel bad. I wanted him to remember how good we were, as friends." Celeste sighed. "Ave, it didn't feel like friendship. It felt like innuendo. And now Tessa's probably asking him questions, and he's trying to explain that there's nothing between you two." Avery felt her stomach clench. "I need to apologize. Right now." "No," Celeste said firmly, holding her hand. "You're drunk, and that's only going to make things worse. Go home, sleep it off, and you'll figure it out tomorrow." "But I can't just leave," Avery said. "They saw it. I have to explain." "Ave, listen to me." Celeste looked her in the eyes. "If you go to them now, you'll say something stupid, and it'll be even worse. I'll call you a taxi. Tomorrow, you'll write to Finn and explain everything." Avery nodded reluctantly, feeling the alcohol and shame mixing into a heavy cocktail. Celeste ordered her a car, and 10 minutes later Avery was sitting in a cab, looking out the window. Her phone beeped a text from Lucas. "Are you okay? What was that story?" She didn't answer, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. At home, she collapsed on her bed, fully dressed. She opened Instagram to make sure the story had been deleted, but the notifications were still coming in, friends asking what it was, and one coworker even jokingly said, "Does Finn know you miss him?" Avery turned off her phone and buried her face in her pillow. She couldn't believe she'd let jealousy get the better of her. This wasn't her, not Avery, who wanted freedom and control over her life. She woke up the next morning with a headache and a sense of shame that was worse than a hangover. She turned on her phone and saw a text from Finn sent at 1 a.m. Eve, what was that photo? Tessa saw it, and now she thinks there was something between us. Is there any way to explain it? Avery stared at the screen, her heart sinking. She started to type a reply, but her fingers were shaking. She knew she should apologize, but she didn't know how to explain it without sounding pathetic. Avery stood at the bar at the Bright Vibe corporate party, sipping a gin and tonic. The restaurant was decorated with fairy lights, the music was blasting, and the studio staff was having fun, celebrating the successful completion of a major project. Avery wore a dark green dress and let her hair down, deciding that tonight was going to be a fun night. But her mood was clouded by the situation with Finn. After she drunkenly posted an old photo of them on Instagram, he responded with a short message asking her to explain to Tessa that nothing happened between them. Avery texted him an apology, admitting that she was drunk and not thinking, but Finn's response was a cold, "Okay, I'll figure it out." Since then, he'd been avoiding her even more, and it was driving her crazy. She took a long sip of her cocktail, feeling the alcohol pleasantly relaxing her. Celeste, who had been invited as an outside contractor for the gallery, approached her with a glass of wine. "Ave, how are you?" Celeste asked, looking her over. "This is your second cocktail in half an hour. Take your time." "I'm fine," Avery said, smiling wider than necessary. "Just having fun. It's a party, right?" "Yeah, but you look like you're getting ready to fight," Celeste said, lowering her voice. "Is it because of Finn? I saw him here with Tessa." Avery glanced across the room. Finn was standing at the refreshment table, talking to Tessa and Leela. Tessa was wearing a bright red blouse, her short hair glistening under the fairy lights. She was laughing, touching Finn's arm, and he was smiling at her the way he used to smile at Avery. Avery clutched her glass, anger rising in her chest. "They look happy," she muttered, taking another sip. "I guess I'm nothing to him now." "Ave, don't start," Celeste warned. "You wanted freedom. Don't be mad at him for moving on." "I'm not mad," Avery lied, though her voice shook. "It's just, he could have at least talked to me after that post. I apologized, Cell, and he acts like I'm a criminal." "Because your post put him in an awkward position," Celeste said firmly. "Tessa probably still thinks there was something between you. Give him time." "Time?" Avery snorted. "He already found himself a new girlfriend. He clearly doesn't need time." Celeste sighed, but before she could answer, Mira, their boss, called her over to discuss something work-related. "Don't go too heavy on the cocktails," Celeste whispered as she left. "And keep your cool." Avery nodded, but her gaze returned to Finn and Tessa. She ordered another drink, ignoring the slight dizziness she felt. The alcohol was making her bolder, and she wasn't going to let Finn ruin her night. She joined a group of co-workers dancing to a remix of an old hit, and for a while she forgot about her worries. But an hour later, after her fourth drink, her reserve was beginning to crack. She noticed that Finn had gone to the bar to get drinks, leaving Tessa with Leela. Avery, on impulse, walked toward them. Her gait was a little unsteady, but she tried to look confident. "Hey, Tessa," she said, stopping next to her. "Nice blouse. Where did you get it?" Tessa turned, slightly surprised. "Oh, hi, Avery. Thanks. I think it was the vintage store on Hawthorne. And you look nice." "Thanks," Avery said, her smile tight. "Listen, I saw your pictures at the exhibit. They were cool. You must be really creative." Leela, sensing the tension, tried to diffuse the situation. "Yes, Tessa is a talent. Have you seen her series about street musicians?" "Yeah, I saw that," Avery said, not taking her eyes off Tessa. "Finn seems to like your work too. You two are inseparable now, aren't you?" Tessa frowned, catching the sarcasm. "Well, we spend time together. He's a cool guy." "Oh yeah, he's cool," Avery agreed, her voice growing louder. "You know, I used to hang out with him. Concerts, picnics, stuff like that. We were close. Really close." Leela coughed, trying to intervene. Ave, maybe we should go get some chips. I'm hungry. But Avery ignored her, her gaze fixed on Tessa. But it looks like he's found himself a replacement now. A little more boring, but to each their own. The crowd around them fell silent, and several people turned around. Tessa paled, her lips tightening. "What did you say?" she asked quietly. "I said you were a boring replacement," Avery repeated, her voice shaking with alcohol and anger. "Finn deserves someone more interesting than another girl with a camera." "Avery, stop," Finn's voice came. He came over holding 2 glasses, his face dark with irritation. "What are you doing?" Avery turned to him, her cheeks flushed. "What am I doing? I'm just telling the truth. You forgot so quickly how we hung out, how you said you liked me. And now here she is," she gestured at Tessa, "your new perfect girlfriend." "You're drunk," Finn said, his voice low and harsh. "And you're overstepping your bounds. Come on, Tess." He took Tessa's hand and led her toward the exit. Tessa looked shocked, but went with him, shooting Avery a hurt look. Avery stood there, feeling the eyes of her coworkers burning into her. Leela shook her head and walked away, and the others began to whisper. Avery suddenly realized what she had done, but the alcohol was drowning out the shame. Celeste pushed through the crowd and grabbed her elbow. "Avery, outside. Now." "I'm fine," Avery began, but Celeste cut her off, almost dragging her out onto the restaurant's terrace. The cool air hit her face, and Avery felt herself sway slightly. "What was that?" Celeste crossed her arms, her eyes blazing with anger. "You just humiliated Tessa in front of everyone. And Finn, too. Do you even realize what that looked like?" I just said what I thought," Avery muttered, her confidence fading. She took my place, Cell. He was my friend." "Your friend?" Celeste interrupted. "Ave, you pushed him away. You said you didn't want a relationship, and now you're mad that he's with someone else. That's not friendship, that's selfishness." Avery opened her mouth to protest, but the words stuck. She leaned against the wall, tears welling up. "I didn't mean to. I don't know what's wrong with me. I saw them together, and it just tore me apart." "Because you're jealous," Celeste said, her voice softening but still firm. "And instead of sorting out your feelings, you got drunk and made a scene. You went too far, Ave. It's not just you and Finn. You hurt Tessa, who never did anything to you." Avery covered her face with her hands, her voice shaking. "I know. I'm an idiot. I didn't mean for this to happen." "But it did," Celeste said. "And now you're going to have to deal with it. Finn's probably furious, and I don't blame him. And Tessa, she thinks you're some crazy ex now." "I'm not an ex," Avery countered weakly. "We never even met." "Then why are you acting like he owes you?" Celeste asked. "Ave, you wanted freedom, but now you're creating chaos because you can't accept his choice. It's not fair." Avery was silent, feeling Celeste's words hit home. She knew her friend was right, but the shame and alcohol were making it hard for her to think clearly. "What should I do?" she finally asked, her voice barely audible. "First of all, go home," Celeste said. "Sleep it off. Apologize to Finn and Tessa tomorrow. And Eve, you need to really think about why you're reacting like this. It's not just about him. It's about you." Avery nodded, wiping away tears. Celeste called her a cab and walked her to the car, making sure she was okay. In the cab, Avery looked out the window, feeling a hangover and guilt mingle. She remembered Tessa's face, a mixture of hurt and shock, and Finn's angry look. She knew she had gone too far, but she didn't know how to fix it. Her attempts to win Finn back had been a disaster, and now she feared she had lost not only him, but the respect of everyone around her. Avery woke up with a heavy head and a dry mouth. The sunlight streaming through the curtains hurt her eyes, and the memories of the office party the night before washed over her in waves. She sat up in bed, rubbing her temples, and her gaze fell on the phone on her nightstand. She was afraid to turn it on, knowing that there were messages waiting there that she wasn't ready to read. The scene where she'd called Tessa a boring replacement in front of a crowd of coworkers came back to her with excruciating clarity. Her stomach clenched with shame. She forced herself to stand, made coffee, and opened her phone. The notifications confirmed her worst fears. Messages from Celeste, Lucas, and even Leela, who usually avoided gossip. Avery started with Celeste. Eve, how are you? Yesterday was rough. Call me when you wake up. Lucas wrote it more simply. What kind of show did you put on? Finn and Tessa left right after. Call if you need to talk. Leela was more reserved. Avery, I hope you're okay. If you want to discuss yesterday, I'm in the office. Avery felt tears sting her eyes. Not only had she humiliated Tessa and angered Finn, but she had made a fool of herself in front of her coworkers. She opened her conversation with Finn, but there were no new messages. Her apology for the Instagram post from a week ago was the last one. She knew she should write again, but the fear of his reaction paralyzed her. She called Celeste, needing her voice to keep from drowning in guilt. Hey, you're alive, Celeste answered after the second ring. How are you feeling? It's terrible, Avery admitted, her voice shaking. So, I ruined everything. I can't believe I said that to Tessa. And Finn. Everyone probably thinks I'm crazy. Well, not all of them, Celeste said softly. But yes, you went a bit overboard yesterday. People were whispering after you and Finn had that fight. Leela said Tessa was almost crying. Avery closed her eyes, feeling the shame tighten in her chest. I didn't mean to hurt her. I don't even know why I said that. I was drunk and angry. I know, Eve, Celeste said. But that's no excuse. You hurt people. Finn looked like he wanted to strangle you. What are you going to do? I don't know, Avery said, clutching her phone. I want to apologize, but I'm afraid I'll make it worse. He barely talks to me as it is. An apology is the bare minimum, Celeste said. But give him time. And give Tessa time. And most importantly, Ava, you need to figure out why you're acting this way. This isn't just jealousy anymore. It's like you're trying to ruin everything. Avery was silent, Celeste's words hitting home. She knew Celeste was right, but she didn't want to admit how deep her obsession with Finn went. Maybe you're right, she finally said. I'll think about how to apologize. And I think I need help. I can't handle this. That's a step, Celeste replied, her voice softening. Maybe talk to someone, a psychologist, for example. I have a great woman in contact. She helped me when I was breaking up with Paul. A psychologist? Avery frowned. I don't know, Cel. Is that too much? No, not too much, Celeste said firmly. You're clearly confused, Ave, and that's okay. But you can't keep taking it out on others. Think about it, okay? Okay, Avery agreed. Send me her number. Celeste hung up, and Avery promised to call. After the call, she sat down to text Finn. Her fingers were shaking, but she forced herself to be honest. Finn, I'm sorry about yesterday. I was drunk, and I said some terrible things. I didn't mean to hurt Tessa or you. It was unacceptable, and I'm so ashamed. If you want to talk, I'm here. She hit send and put the phone down, feeling her heart pounding. The reply came an hour later, and it was shorter than she had hoped. Avery, thank you for your apology. But please, don't interfere in my life. I need space. Avery stared at the screen, tears rolling down her cheeks. His words were polite but cold, and she knew he was shutting her out completely. She didn't respond, knowing that any words would only make things worse. Instead, she opened the contact information for the therapist Celeste had sent and made an appointment for the following week. She was scared, but she knew she couldn't continue living like this. The first session with psychologist Dr. Linda Martin took place in a small, cozy room with a soft couch and a box of tissues on the table. Linda, a woman in her 50s with a warm smile, began with a simple question. Avery, what brings you here? Avery hesitated, looking at her hands. I've done bad things. I've hurt people, and I don't think I understand why I'm acting this way. Tell me more, Linda suggested, her voice calm and non-judgmental. Avery started with Calvin, describing how his lies had broken her trust, and then moved on to Finn their friendship, his confession, her rejection, and her recent actions. She mentioned the Instagram post and the party scene, feeling the shame tighten in her throat. I didn't want to be like this, she finished, wiping away her tears. But I can't stop. I'm angry that he's with someone else, even though I pushed him away. Linda nodded, taking notes. It sounds like you're going through a lot of complicated emotions. Let's break it down. Why do you think you're reacting so strongly to Finn dating Tessa? Avery shrugged. I don't know. I told him I didn't want a relationship. But when I saw them together, I felt like I was losing him. Like he was supposed to wait for me. Wait for you. Linda raised her eyebrows. Tell me about it. Avery paused, considering her words. I thought he'd be there. As a backup, I guess. I wanted freedom, but I expected him to wait until I decided I was ready. That sounds awful, doesn't it? That sounds fair, Linda said, and it's a common feeling. You wanted control over the situation, but you didn't take into account that Finn had feelings and a right to move on. Why do you think you wanted that control so much? Avery thought about it. I guess, after Calvin, I was afraid to trust again. Finn was safe. He was a friend, and I thought he'd always be there for me until I figured myself out. But when he left, I panicked. Panic can push us to do things we regret, Linda said. Your post on social media, your words at the party, they were an attempt to regain control, but instead you pushed people away. How does that make you feel? It's like I'm the worst person in the world, Avery admitted, her voice breaking. I lost Finn, the respect of my coworkers, even Celeste looks at me like I'm a time bomb. You're not the worst person, Linda said softly. You're a person who made a mistake. What's important is that you're here and want to understand yourself. Let's think about how you can move forward. What would you like to change? I want to stop being so selfish, Avery said, and learn to respect other people's feelings. I don't want to snap like that anymore. That's a good guide, Linda nodded. Let's start by getting to the bottom of your emotions. When you feel jealous or angry, try stopping and asking yourself, what am I trying to protect? That can help you act consciously. Avery nodded, feeling a little relieved. Talking to Linda had been tough, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a way forward. She knew one session wouldn't be enough, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, Avery continued to go to therapy, slowly coming to terms with her actions. She realized that her expectations of Finn, that he would be her backup option, were unfair. She hadn't respected his right to his own feelings and choices, believing that her freedom was more important. This revelation was painful, but it helped her see herself from a different perspective. She kept a low profile at the office, avoiding Finn and trying to repair her reputation. Her coworkers were polite, but she sensed their wariness. Lucas and Celeste were supportive, but even they kept their distance until she proved she had changed. Avery wrote Tessa an apology, but received no answer, and she took this as a sign that she should leave them alone. One night after therapy, she was sitting at home with a cup of tea, looking at her notes from the session. Linda had suggested that she write down what made her feel strongly, and Avery began to see patterns. Her jealousy of Finn wasn't about love, but about fear of losing control and being alone. She realized that her free life was less about independence and more about running away from the pain Calvin had left behind. Avery stood in front of the mirror in her apartment, adjusting the light blue dress she'd picked out for Celeste's wedding. It had been 6 months since the ill-fated office party where she'd publicly insulted Tessa, calling her a boring replacement, and her life had changed. Therapy with Dr. Linda had helped her process her emotions, and she'd begun working on being less self-centered and more respectful of others' feelings. But the thought of seeing Finn and Tessa at the wedding made her a little nervous. She knew they'd be there, and she was prepared for it, but she still felt vulnerable. Avery grabbed her purse and walked out of the house, heading to the ceremony site, a picturesque garden on the outskirts of Portland where Celeste and her fiancé, Elias, had chosen to hold their wedding. The spring air was warm, the blossoming trees filled the garden with scent, and the white tents and garlands created a festive atmosphere. Avery smiled when she saw Celeste, beaming with happiness in her white dress. Her friend waved at her, and Avery felt a surge of warmth despite her past mistakes. Celeste had stuck by her side. "Ave, you look amazing," Celeste said, hugging her before the ceremony. "Thank you for coming." "Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss it for the world," Avery replied, smiling. "You're so beautiful, Cel. Elias is a lucky man." "Oh, come on," Celeste laughed, but her cheeks were pink. "Listen, Finn and Tessa are here. Are you ready for this?" Avery nodded, her smile tightening slightly. "Yeah, I'm fine. I want to apologize to them, if they'll let me." "That's brave," Celeste said, squeezing her hand. "I'm proud of you. Just be yourself, okay?" "I'll try," Avery replied, feeling her nerves calmed by her friend's support. The ceremony was short and sweet. Avery sat in the third row, watching Celeste and Elias exchange vows. She glanced sideways at the guests and spotted Finn and Tessa a few rows ahead. Finn was wearing a charcoal suit, and Tessa was wearing a lavender dress. They held hands, and Avery felt a twinge of sadness, but not anger. Therapy had taught her to recognize her emotions, and she knew it wasn't jealousy, but regret for how things had turned out. After the ceremony, guests moved into the tent for dinner and dancing. Avery helped Celeste organize, handing out programs and directing guests to their tables. She tried to stay on the periphery, mingling with Lucas, Jasper, and other acquaintances so as not to run into Finn and Tessa too early. But during a break before the dance, she saw them at a table with drinks, chatting with a couple of friends. Avery took a deep breath, reminding herself of Linda's words. An apology is not about forgiveness, it's about taking responsibility for your actions. She walked toward them. "Hello," she said quietly, stopping next to their table. "Can I have a word?" Finn and Tessa turned, their faces filled with surprise. Finn nodded, but his eyes were wary. "Sure, Avery, what is it?" Tessa looked at Finn, then at Avery, her expression neutral but not hostile. Avery swallowed, feeling her heart pounding. "I want to apologize," she began, her voice even but sincere, "for everything I've done, for that Instagram post, for what I said at the office party, for the rumors you heard about me dating. I was unfair and selfish. I hurt both of you, especially you, Tessa, and I'm so ashamed. You didn't deserve this. I just want to say I'm sorry and congratulations on your engagement." She saw the ring flash on Tessa's finger, and her words of engagement were sincere, though they were difficult to say. Finn and Tessa exchanged glances, and for a second Avery thought they would just walk away. But Tessa spoke first. "Thank you, Avery," she said, her voice cool but not unkind. "It means a lot. I don't hold a grudge, but it's been hard. I appreciate you coming over." Avery nodded, relieved but not expecting more. "I understand. I don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I just wanted to say it in person." Finn, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "Ave, I appreciate your words too. Tessa and I are happy, and I want you to be happy. Good luck to you." His voice was calm, without anger, but with a clear distance. Avery felt her throat tighten, but she forced herself to smile. "Thank you, Finn. I wish you happiness too. You look good together." She turned to leave, but Finn called after her. "Avery," he said, and she turned. "Really, take care of yourself. You deserve to be happy." "I'm trying," she replied with a slight smile. "Enjoy your evening." Avery stepped away, feeling the tension drain from her body. She hadn't expected forgiveness or a renewed friendship, but their words gave her a sense of closing a chapter. She found Lucas at the bar and ordered a soda, deciding that was enough alcohol for the day. "I saw you talking to Finn and Tessa," Lucas said, taking a sip of his beer. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," Avery said, nodding. I apologized. They accepted, but, well, it's in the past. I'm just glad I said it. That's cool, Lucas said, clapping her on the shoulder. You're doing great, Ave. Not everyone can admit their mistakes. Avery smiled, feeling the warmth of his words. She looked around the tent, where guests were dancing to live music. Celeste and Elias were twirling in the center, their faces alight with happiness. Avery thought about how far she had come in the last 6 months. Therapy had taught her to see her mistakes and take responsibility. She realized that her behavior with Finn had been an attempt to maintain control, but instead she had pushed him away. Now she was learning to let go, respecting his choices and moving forward. Later, as she sat at the table, Celeste sat down next to her, still in her wedding dress. I saw you talking to them, she said, smiling. How did it go? Better than I expected, Avery admitted. They were normal. Tessa accepted the apology. Finn wished me luck. It's more than I deserved. Don't say that, Celeste said, squeezing her hand. You've been working on yourself. It shows. I'm proud of you, Ave. Thank you, Cel, Avery said, her voice breaking. And thanks for not leaving me when I was, well, you know. You're my friend, Celeste replied with a wink. Even when you make a scene. Now let's dance. It's my wedding, and you can't get out of it. Avery laughed and followed her onto the dance floor. For the first time in a long time, she felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. She knew her journey to herself wasn't over, but apologizing to Finn and Tessa had been an important step. She danced with Celeste and Lucas, laughing, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to just be in the moment, without looking back. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.